Well, thank you, Marcia, and my thanks to the CPC for hosting us here this morning for this conversation. As most of you know, Central Asia sits at the convergence of four of the planet's great geostrategic and geoeconomic tectonic plates, bounded by Russia, the People's Republic of China, Afghanistan, and Iran. As we approach the quarter-way mark of this now not-so-new century, one thing is very clear. In Central Asia, as elsewhere, these plates are moving as we enter a new era of strategic competition, with new fissures, earthquakes, and subduction zones driving new thinking in the region about how to build and sustain a stable, peaceful, and prosperous future. And as a new Central Asia emerges, the United States finds that it has new opportunities for engagement and partnership in the region. Indeed, our work, especially at USAID, is emerging as a proof point that development principles grounded in pluralistic values, good governance, and economic inclusion can deliver greater resilience, diversified economies, sustainable trade-driven growth, and employment. As the region grows more open to reform, we at USAID are asking hard questions about how to unlock the region's economic growth potential, including about the proverbial middle corridor, a trade route echoing the ancient Silk Road and linking Central Asia and the Caspian to Europe and global markets. Advocates believe that a strengthened middle corridor can breathe new life into the region's economy, promoting cross-border trade and generating new opportunities for direct investment and improved livelihoods. In order to succeed, however, local and national leaders will have to work together to tackle daunting administrative, infrastructure, and political obstacles to growth. The region is vast and has equally vast infrastructure needs. Human capital is distributed sparsely. The region's leaders are only now collaborating with one another on account of simmering tensions that date back to independence from the Soviet Union, and indeed further back still. Despite all these constraints, however, we believe there is reason to be very optimistic. USAID's partnerships in Central Asia and the Caucasus run deep, spanning more than 30 years, during which time the United States has provided more than $21 billion to support the region's peace and security objectives, humanitarian priorities, and economic growth. In the last 2 years alone, the United States has provided over $115 million of congressional Ukraine supplemental funding to the Caucasus and to Central Asia to mitigate the impacts of Russia's further illegal invasion of Ukraine. Now we have a historic opportunity to continue supporting the region's economic development through increased trade and greater trade integration. With many leaders demonstrating an increased appetite for reform, we're adopting a more robust approach to the region's economic development goals. Our programs are designed to carefully facilitate greater trade and cross-border collaboration, with an eye increasingly trained on the middle corridor. Our first priority is to help the countries in Central Asia and the Caucasus reduce barriers to connectivity, both physical and digital. Nearly half the population of Central Asia is not digitally connected, and slow internet speeds for those who are connected impede business and slows efficiency. As such, USAID is conducting digital ecosystem assessments to formulate an approach to supporting the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs in the region who will catalyze growth. We are also fully supporting private sector engagement with digital markets. Our Future Growth Initiative actively partnered with the International Trade Center to create eBay Central Asia Hub, which has trained 131 companies from Central Asia so far to set up their online stores on the hub. But let's be clear. Effective connectivity for all will require billions of dollars in public and private investment, openness to modernization, and improvements to regulatory frameworks in line with international best practices. As the middle corridor gains popularity, however, it is becoming prone to bottlenecks and delays. We're using this opportunity and the moment we have right now to gauge how current demand may be sustained and what might be done to unleash its potential. At present, USAID supports the region's private sector through the harmonization of customs and border procedures, increased public sector dialogue, and firm-to-firm connectivity. A prime example is USAID's Trade Central Asia program, which received an additional $15 million in Ukraine supplemental funds to, again, mitigate the trade impacts of Russia's further illegal invasion of Ukraine. Trade Central Asia is working to digitize key infrastructure from Central Asia to the Caspian, supporting the electronic exchange of customs information, permitting, and queuing, and creating a system for trucks by doing so at border crossings. Lastly, we are also advocating and looking at ways to support greater interregional cooperation among Central Asia and Caucasus countries. The countries of the region have proudly sought to maintain their hard-won independence from the Soviet Union, sometimes eschewing strong intra-regional cooperation in the process. USAID supports the economic sovereignty of the Caucasus and Central Asian countries and is working to bring together trade and transit officials, shippers and facilitators, and others in a whole-of-region approach. Our Trade Central Asia activity is supporting this kind of cooperation by, for example, helping Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan introduce maritime single windows to improve ease of doing cross-border businesses. Ultimately, our hope is that the international investors who are looking at the region and considering whether or not they should be doing business there will view Central Asia and the Caucasus as a market of 90 million consumers, well-connected internally and able to attract greater foreign direct investment. USAID has a number of programs working to promote economic growth in the Caspian region, and we are working to secure new assistance funding to further this important work. We will continue to stand firmly in friendship with the people of Central Asia and the Caucasus as they chart their own paths forward. And we look forward to continuing our work in the region in partnership with the countries of Central Asia and the Caucasus to unleash their formidable possibilities for regional connectivity and to create a more prosperous, stable, and sovereign future. So let me conclude by thanking the CPC again for bringing together this conversation and to thank all of the ambassadors and others who have joined us today and contributed to such a rich conversation. Thank you.